Question number 2, this is from Kareem, that's at Saudi Colt. Is the age of quarterback resurrection here to stay? And was it Jared Goff who started it all in Detroit? And is it a change of scenery, coaching, just quarterbacks growing up, or all of the above that's fueling it? Kareem, I'd say it's all of the above. I think too often we look at these things and we divorce the quarterback from his circumstances. And too often these quarterbacks go into situations where they're being drafted by bad teams, which are usually the teams that have the highest picks. And they walk into situations where maybe the coach is already on the hot seat, or the coach is new and he's a head coach for the first time. And there's all kinds of development or pressure or whatever else it is going on around them. They're going onto rosters that aren't very good. And before you know it, you're in year 3 or year 4. You've already been through a coaching change. You've had a bunch of moving parts around you on offense, and you've never had a chance to really settle in. More often than not, a young quarterback needs his circumstances to lift him up. Then when he gets later in his career, he can be the guy who's the force multiplier, the guy who's lifting everyone else up. But there are very few quarterbacks who've walked into bad circumstances early in their careers and been able to automatically, like right off the bat, be the type of guy who can lift everyone around them up. Andrew Luck is one. Jaden Daniels walked into a situation last year that wasn't perfect, but you could say that he was already lifting some people up around him, but that's very, very, very rare. I think Daniel Jones is the best example of this. And there are a few good examples of it. Baker Mayfield's another one we'll pick out, but Daniel Jones, if you look at the first 4 years of his career, he had 3 head coaches. He went from Pat Shurmur to Joe Judge from Pat Shurmur to Joe Judge, and then to Brian Daboll. He had 4 different play callers. He had Pat Shurmur as a play caller first, then under Joe Judge, Jason Garrett, then Freddie Kitchens. Then that 4th year, they had Mike Kafka calling plays. Daboll was in there some too. And that was actually when he turned the corner. And then going into year 5, plays 6 weeks, gets hurt. I mean, I don't know who would have played really well through those circumstances, given everything that was going on around him, given like just the ability of the people around him to lift him up. I'm not sure it was there for him. Baker Mayfield, he's drafted in 2018. At that time, Hugh Jackson was the head coach there. Todd Haley was his play caller. After a few weeks, he becomes the starter. Then Hugh Jackson, Todd Haley are both fired. They have Greg Williams as the head coach. They have Freddie Kitchens as the coordinator and the play caller. Year 2, Freddie Kitchens is the head coach. You have Todd Monken as the offensive coordinator. Year 3, Kevin Stefanski and Alex Van Pelt come in and they stabilize it and they make the playoffs. And then 2021, a little more uneven, and he's traded. It's just too often it looks like that for these young guys. Too often these guys aren't given the opportunity to develop. And I think in a lot of cases, the scars that these guys incur wind up being assets for them later in their careers. And so I think the age of quarterback resurrection is not about the quarterbacks themselves so much as it is about talented guys going into situations that are untenable and then eventually figuring it out and eventually benefiting from all the bad that was around them. And so I think you can see it with Geno Smith. You can see it with Sam Darnold. You can see it with Baker Mayfield. You can see it with Daniel Jones. I think the ultimate example of it, if you want to go further back, was Alex Smith, who had 6 coordinators his first 6 years in the NFL. Jim Harbaugh finally stabilized it for him, and he became a starter in the NFL and a really good starter in the NFL for almost a decade. It was so valuable to Andy Reid's build in Kansas City. So I think that as long as you have owners with a quick trigger finger that keep turning over rosters, that keep turning over coaching staffs, that keep making change for change's sake, you're going to see these situations continue to arise. And it's no mistake, by the way, if you look at the 3 guys who I think most people would say right now are the 3 best quarterbacks in the NFL, with Joe Burrow hurt, if you move them over to the side, the 3 best quarterbacks in the NFL right now, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Those 3 guys were all drafted onto playoff teams. And people forget that. But in all 3 cases, it was playoff teams. Well, in 2 of the cases, it was playoff teams trading way up in the draft to get them. And then in another case, it was the quarterback, Lamar Jackson, falling to 32, where Baltimore was able to grab him. But, certainly I think this is more about circumstances than it is about the quarterbacks themselves. And you got to give guys like Geno and Baker and Daniel Jones and Geno Smith a lot of credit for fighting through that and winding up being really good players on the other side. And Jared Goff is a good example too, although his story is a little bit different, of course, because he was in a good circumstance after his rookie year, which was a tough circumstance. The team moved. He's with Jeff Fisher. He's able to bounce back with Sean McVay. That doesn't work out when the team gets close to winning for a championship. But then he goes into a place where he's able to be the guy. He's given some rope to go through some ups and downs. They trust him. They put their arm around him. They say, you're our guy. And we see the result of that.